I thought I'd show you guys my compost system. I've got 3 bays. I've made them with chicken wire and T-post because that's what I had readily available. This bin is the one that has been composting the longest, and it's pretty much finished. It's been flipped once, and it's broken down to the point that it's no longer in active mode, but it was hot for a while, and hopefully all the weed seeds have composted. So what I did is I actually had to rebuild the whole pile because it had broken down to the point that it was pretty short and had stopped being active at all. So once you pile it all up and make sure it's got an even moisture level, it'll probably get a little bit more active again and finish breaking down over the next couple months. So here's a close-up of the thermometer. You can see it's barely in the steady zone, so we want to get it closer to the active zone. Now this is my newest pile. I just started it with a layer of green on the bottom, and I started to pile the layer of brown on top, and I stopped to show it to you. If you look at it, you'll see that there's a whole bunch of really stemmy stuff on the bottom. I've got sunflower stems, I've got corn stalks, I've even got some fir branches. And that's okay because those big bulky materials will actually give it some air circulation at the bottom, which is really good for the compost pile as it starts to break down. So this is my first layer, the layer of greens, and now it's time for a layer of browns. So now I'm adding my brown material, which is waste from the rabbit pens. If you'll notice, I have a lot of hay and I have a lot of pine shavings in there, which is why I'm composting it. If it would have just been pure rabbit manure, you could actually put it right in your garden because rabbit manure is what's called a cold manure, as is goat manure, and they do not burn the plants. I personally like to compost first because you can still have bacteria in animal waste if you just put it raw on the garden, and I think it's a lot safer to compost. When you compost manure, you also allow a lot of the beneficial microbes to start getting in there, and it also allows the plants to access all the nutrients better. So it's always a good thing to compost if you can. So now I'm going to just spread this layer around so that the green is covered. And I'm going to muck out the goat pen pretty shortly, so I'll have a little bit thicker layer of browns when I'm done, and I'll make sure all the corners are filled. I'm hoping to get this pile to be at least 4 feet tall before it really gets active, because the taller piles will get hotter and break down faster. It's really good to, if you can, do that. This pile was not so big to start, but it still broke down okay. Now, not everyone has access to all the pine shavings and straw that I have to make up their brown layer. At the time I was putting a bunch of greens on, I realized I didn't have enough brown, so I grabbed this cardboard and threw it on, and that's fine. Cardboard makes a great brown layer. Just make sure you remove any tape, staples, or labels off of the box because you don't want those breaking down your compost. Now, if you're thinking, wow, no way can I keep flipping compost piles, and there's no way I can compost, I only flipped this pile once. I was only able to lift 10 pounds for a short period of time, and I just couldn't flip it. And it broke down fine. There were a lot of insects that get in there and do your work for you. There's pill bugs, centipedes, spiders all in there working. So it's not something you absolutely have to do. It's a slower process, and it often isn't as hot a compost, so you might have some weed seeds, but your compost will compost on its own, just like the leaves on the forest floor break down on their own. So don't let not being strong enough or energetic enough to flip a pile stop you from making compost. All right, 24 hours later, I wanted to show you my mostly finished compost again, and you can see it's not into the active zone yet. It's just in the steady zone still, but it has jumped a couple degrees. So Hopefully it'll finish breaking down pretty quickly so I can use it in the garden for fall.